Okay, we're going to start with 4.6 and talk about complex fractions and mixed numbers and how to do adding and subtracting, and more importantly here, multiplying and dividing. And we're going to do a couple of those examples, and then we will go on to 4.7. Okay, so when we're talking about complex fractions, we're talking about something that looks like a fraction over a fraction. So say I have 1/8 over 3/4. I have a fraction over a fraction. I don't like this. This looks that's complex. It's confusing. But what I can do is rewrite it, and rewrite it exactly how I see it. 1/8 divided by 3/4. So that's how I write it, but I write it horizontally. 1/8 divided by 3/4. That, now, I kind of understand. That's something you've seen before, okay? So if I have this, I use that trick when you're talking about division of fractions, which is keep, change, flip. That's a P. Keep, change, flip. Keep the first fraction, 1/8. Change the sign. It'll always be changed to multiplying if you're doing division. Times, and flip the second fraction, 4/3. Now I can multiply across the top and across the bottom. I can do that. Or I could look to see if there's something I can cancel doing a diagonal or up and down. So if I look this way, well, yeah, 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 8 twice. Multiply across the top, I have 1. Across the bottom, I have 6. Okay? So that's the first thing that they start with as far as on how to do something that's a little bit more complex. Okay? So that's the first thing. Okay, number 2. Or the second problem as this thing moves away from me. Number 2 is this. What if I give you something that looks like 7/6 plus 2/3 all over 3/2 minus 8/9. Okay, so here's what I got. Okay, I have 2 fractions in the numerator, 2 fractions in the denominator. Man, that looks complex. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each one of these things individually. I'm going to do the top because it's something you've done before. And then I'm going to do the bottom. And then we're going to try to put them together. Okay, so let's do the top. So I have 7/6 plus 2/3. You need a common denominator. You need the LCD, the least common denominator. Now, we could do prime factorization, the factor tree. We could break that all down, take everything that you see, don't duplicate it, don't duplicate the factors, and take the highest exponent and multiply that together. That'll give me my LCD. Or you could see what these numbers have in common, or what they go into, what they're multiples of. Well, look at 3 is a multiple of 6. So my common denominator is 6. So I'm going to leave the first fraction the same, 7/6, plus something over 6. Well, I multiply 3 by 2 to get it to 6, but remember what I said, whatever you do to the bottom, you got to do the top. So if you multiply this by 2, you multiply this by 2, which gives you 4, which now if I just add the numerators, that's how you add fractions, you just add the numerators, I get 11/6. Great. That's the first part of my fraction, 11/6. So now I've done the top. Okay, now I got to do the bottom. Okay, so now I'm going to erase this stuff. And now I'm going to do the bottom, and I'm going to do the same thing. The same idea. The same idea. So now I have 3/2 minus 8/9. Looks like I got a glare on that. There you go. Okay, so now, in order to find the common denominator, what I can do is multiply those two together. Multiply these two together to get 18. That's another way to find a common denominator. It may not be the least common denominator, but that is one way to find a common denominator. Multiply them together. Okay? Now I got to find the tops. Now here's a shortcut to find the numerators. I could just multiply across. 9 times 3 is 27. 2 times 8 is 16. That'll cut down. That's a little cheat as far as on how to get those numerators. Now just subtract the 2, and I get 11 over 18. Again, do not do anything with the denominators. Don't add them or subtract them. Just keep them the way that they are. So now on the bottom, I got 11 over 18. Well, now this goes into what the problem we just did. This says, okay, by the way, I have 11/6 divided by 11 over 18. So I'm going to rewrite it going horizontally. Now, keep, change, flip. Now it looks like I can cancel some stuff out. 11 cancels out. There's a 1 there. 6 goes into 6 once, 6 goes into 18 3 times. My final answer, 3, or 3 over 1. If you multiply across the top is 3, and across the bottom is 1. But 3 over 1 is 3. Okay? So, do the top, do the bottom. Take them separately, and then do that final computation at the end. All right? Now let's do another one. There's that example. Now what if I have multiple operations? I still have to do my order of operations if I have multiple operations. So if I have something that looks like this, what if I have 7/8 divided by 1/4 times 1/7? I'll pull this up a little bit. Okay. I have multiplying and dividing all in one line, so I have to do it from left to right like I'm reading a book. Multiplying doesn't take precedence over dividing. They're all the same, okay? Multiplying and dividing are the same level. So if you have them, dividing, multiplying, do it from left to right. So keep, change, flip, and then I'm going to write times 1/7 over here. Well, now look what I have. Well, 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 8 twice. Great. Now, you can do canceling going across 2 levels, but I won't do that just yet. I'll just say 7 over 2 times 1 over 7. Well, now the 7's cancel out. Left with 1. I'm left with 1 over 2. Okay? So the idea is to say, hey, if I have multiple operations done in the same line, if it's multiplying and dividing, do it from left to right, like you're reading a book. Okay? And the last example that I'll show you of this thing is if I have, get the eraser here, is if I have, as this thing creeps away from me, okay, if I have something that looks like this. What if I have 1 minus 2/5 squared? Okay. Well, order of operations says do what's in the parentheses first. Okay. And so I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the 1 minus 2/5. Now, here's the thing. We haven't really talked a lot about it, but anytime that you see, that's a 5, by the way. Anytime that you see a whole number like this, number 1, subtracting by a fraction, by the way, take that as far as being 5 over 5. Okay? 5 over 5 is 1, but that also gives you your denominator. Okay? It gives you your denominator. So now all I have to do is subtract the 2, which is 3/5. Remember, adding and subtracting, you got to have a common denominator. Now I have to square that. What does it mean to square it? Well, you multiply it twice. So this is 3/5 times 3/5. Multiply across the top and across the bottom. 9 over 25. Okay? That's a quick tutorial on 4.6. I'll be back to talk about 4.7.